It's clear we come from different ages. Realization come in stages, leave them spellbound like mages. I run through enemies like medieval knights with maces, many spaces above you like outer spaces.
What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from mtg down there, plays the decks and youtube.com. Feels like it's been forever since I did a deck tech, but I think it's only been a few days. But anyway, I missed you guys. I figured I'd give you a deck that you've been asking me for a super duper long time. This is the Simic, that's blue-green, Clues deck that uses Briar Ridge Patrol and Tamiyo's Journal to put out huge guys, because who doesn't want to do that? The first thing I need to do is explain the combo to the 4 people who have yet to see this combo. We're going to play a 4 of Briar Ridge Patrol and a 3 of Tamiyo's Journal in the deck. And once you read them together, it's pretty obvious what we're doing. You know, if you sacrifice 3 clues to the Tamiyo's Journal and go search up a huge guy, put him into your hand, then you can play that same guy at the end of the turn with Briar Ridge Patrol. Pretty simple, pretty clean. So that's the combo, and that's pretty easy to grasp. We're going to talk about what we're doing with that combo here in a second. But while I'm talking about these cards, might as well talk about the other stuff that they do. Why not, you know? Basically, Briar Ridge Patrol, that first line of text is pretty good, especially if she survives combat, to block another day. That's pretty cool. Or you can swing into smaller creatures, and if they chunk block her, then you'll get to kill the creature and you'll get a clue. That's pretty good. Now, even if she dies in combat, you'll still get the clue token. All that's pretty awesome. Makes her a good blocker and a good attacker against smaller boards. We have a couple of creatures like that, actually. And Tamiyo's Journal, outside of the ability to tutor for things, gives us a clue during her upkeep. That means it has synergy with itself, and there will be times where you don't tutor, you just draw the card. There will be times when you do that because you're digging for something, but you don't quite have 3 clues or any way to generate the other 2. Before I move off of these 2 cards, I just want to propose a name for this deck, you know, because like Simic or Blue-Green Clues Patrol Journal is like really cumbersome. So here's my thought process here. Briar Ridge Patrol is obviously a lot of different people on a patrol, but this one lady here looks like the captain of the patrol. What's another word for journal? Log. Let's call the deck Captain's Log. Short, simple, clean and to the point, and it's a fun pun. So let me know how you feel about the name, because it's probably actually like the ultimate cheese. But anyway, moving on, if we want to play this combo, we have to play some like huge creatures too that do fun stuff when they enter the battlefield, or they're all big and meaty, like, I'm big. That's how I walk around every day. I'm a big man. But anyway, in the budget deck, we've got some interesting options. Now, we do have some good upgraded options. I'll talk about those a little bit later in the video. For now, as far as the budget deck goes, here's what we've come up with. And hear me out, we'll discuss this in the comments section. But I've got reasons for playing this creature suite. What we're doing is we're playing 3 copies of Green Warden of Murasa, 3 copies of Woodland Bellower, and 1 copy of Gia's Revenge. Now, Gia's Revenge is just that big stupid guy I was talking about, you know. He's hard to target, hard to get rid of, and he can break through defenses pretty easily. So I like at least playing one just huge stupid guy. But as far as the other 2 creatures, this is where it gets interesting. Woodland Bellower and Green Warden of Murasa. Woodland Bellower can put out huge amounts of power, split among 2 guys onto the battlefield for essentially free if we're using Journal and Patrol. Oh, that's awesome. Woodland Bellower is fantastic, and Green Warden of Murasa works fairly well with it. You know, Green Warden can go and get any Woodland Bellowers out of our graveyard that they've happened to kill, and we can replay them for more value. And we've got one guy in the deck that we sort of want to die because he gives us a clue when he dies. We can get him back. We've got a fair amount of good blockers in the deck, so we can get any of them back. And a bunch of key creatures like Tireless Tracker, Erdwall Illuminator. So if we happen to lose any of those pieces, we can get them back. Obviously, too, if we lose Briar Ridge Patrol as a combo piece off the board, then Green Warden of Murasa can also put him back into our hand, too. So all of that is really important. And note the may ability on the second line of text there. You know, you may exile Green Warden when he dies. You don't have to. You can let him go to the graveyard, and then you can start a loop with multiple Green Wardens, you know, so that's something else you can do. But it's really good when it gets Bellowers they may have killed back from the graveyard, and we've got a bunch of other creatures and cards, really, that it can get back. So these cards work fairly well in concert. They're both huge guys that your opponent has a hard time dealing with. And, you know, anytime you want, you can go get a Green Warden. So if they remove your guys in combat or through spot removal, then we can just get them back with a Green Warden pretty easily. Overall, these 2 pieces will help you establish your board presence and keep it too. And it helps you go a little bit deeper in the game, and you've always got a couple of big dudes on the battlefield once you get your combo established. So I love these 2 cards together, and I love them separately too. You know, just putting a Bellower onto the battlefield at the end of their turn, which you can do with the Patrol Tamiyo's Journal combo. I neglected to mention that. You can do that at the end of their turn. You can put a Woodland Bellower into play and something else. Anything from your library. I just love that you can tutor up a Woodland Bellower, and that'll allow you to tutor up something else, usually a Tireless Tracker. So just really love the value on both of these things. I know I'm over-explaining here, but I know that some people are going to be weirded out by the creature suite and probably wanted different things, but these two cards have worked so well with what we're trying to do in the deck, with how deep we're trying to go into the game. I love how they work in concert, and just there's a lot to love about both of these cards, especially together. But we've got another 14 some odd creatures in the deck. That's a total of 25 creatures. We want a fairly high creature count in the deck. And there's some stuff that I'm not playing that we could play, like Duskwatch Recruiter. I felt like it was too expensive of an uncommon to play in this budget deck because I wanted to keep it as low as possible. But Recruiter could work fairly well if you wanted to do that too. But here's what we've ended up doing here. We're playing 4 copies of Tireless Tracker first and foremost. This is one of the most key pieces in the entire deck, obviously. You can create multiple clues a turn with cards like Evolving Wilds and Blighted Woodland. I'm playing a couple of those too. We want as many clue triggers in a turn as possible, and we want our clue triggers to be as reliable and renewable as possible. Tireless Tracker is good at that, and if you have multiple trackers out and you play a land, then that can generate a ton of clues, especially if you have a Tamiyo's Journal. Tamiyo's Journal will give you the clue during your upkeep. If you have 2 Tireless Trackers out, you play a land, that's 3 clues right there. So all of this is good. Tireless Tracker can get huge over the course of the game, and note that when you sacrifice the clues to the journal, then you will then get 3 tokens, or 3 +1/+1 counters on Tireless Tracker, making him huge immediately. So I know that he's a lot of money, but he is definitely worth a playset, which I've said with like 3 different decks lately. And Tireless Tracker is amazing. As far as other creatures in the deck, I want to start with Erdwell Illuminator, an MVP. The thing is amazing in this deck. Erdwell Illuminator is going to extend the number of clues we get, and that's all we needed to do. But it is, again, another good blocker in the deck. 2 mana for a 1/3, especially that flies, and thus can block flyers. It is also a really good deal just unto itself. So, like everything about Illuminator, it's the only blue card we're going to play in the entire main deck. But it is definitely worth playing. You got to play the guy. We're going to play 4 copies of Byway Courier in the deck, and this is probably the weakest card in the budget deck, but it is still another thing that generates clues. It blocks very well. You know, sometimes it can trade and get us a clue. Sometimes it can attack well onto, you know, naked boards and boards with small creatures. So the card actually does a lot of things. We can go get it with Woodland Bellower, you know, but this guy, like I said, not the most important lady in the deck, but still can get us a clue when it dies. That's important, and blocks favorably, sometimes attacks well. And finally, I'm going to play 2 copies of Grafdigger Mole. Hey everybody, Dev here in the editing room. Just wanted to point this out. Obviously, the name of this card is Graf Mole, but I was thinking about the stupid cage because I'm a Magic player, and every time you say Graf, you have to say Digger afterwards. So I'm, you know, obviously the card is Graf Mole. I was going to say Grafdigger again. But anyway, the card's Graf Mole, and here's the rest of the video. In the creatures, I don't want to play all 4 copies in the deck. I don't think we need to life gain that much, but I'm going to put the other 2 copies on the board just in case we do against certain decks. But this can be searched up both with Journal and Bellower, so we don't have to play all the copies of it or anything. But I do like the value on the card. 3 mana for a 2/4, not bad at all. And the fact that we can gain life when we sack clues is just amazing. So, gotta play a couple of copies of this. I'd feel bad if I didn't. As far as the other clue generators in the main deck, I want to play 4 copies of Weirding Wood in the deck. Now, this card actually does see play in the, you know, sort of mainstream Teamer Clues deck that's like tier 2.5 right now. The deck is trying to do work, and it doesn't really play that many cards that actually generate clues. But this is one of the cards that it does play, for a lot of reasons. That deck is sort of a ramp deck, and it wants to get to 7 and 8 mana for some things. So we want to get to 5 and 6 mana. Weirding Wood can help us out with that. On turn 3, we play Wood, and that guarantees that we get to Briarbridge Patrol the next turn. That's pretty cool. It can also help us get to Journal way easier. It can also fix our mana, not bad, and of course, it makes a clue on top of all that. So Weirding Wood is sort of a star clue generator in the format, and it does so much for us that yes, absolutely it's a 4 of. And then finally, we're going to play 3 copies of Confront the Unknown. This is a way to get a clue for 1 mana and have a good combat trick in the early game that can make them lose a creature they didn't want to lose. And in the late game, if you have a bunch of clues out, this can be a blowout play on an unblocked creature. So, and this can just be almost removal in certain combat situations at almost any stage in the game. So, Confront the Unknown can be really good and often close the game out if you play it on an unblocked tracker, for instance. We're playing 25 lands in the deck, and I want a fairly high land count because we have to get to at least the 5 mana, and we got Weirding Wood to help us out, but that's the only main deck help. So I want to play a very high land count in the deck to make sure we get the drops that we want to get. And some of these cards are fairly important, you know. And if you know, Evolving Wilds is especially important with Tireless Tracker. Same thing with Blighted Woodland. But all I really want to say here is that if you have the money to jazz up the mana base, you really should. Lumbering Falls obviously goes in Yavimaya Coast as well. But we can get by on this because we're only playing 2 blue cards in the entire 75. Here's the sideboard for you right here. Not really much to say about the board, you know, it's a pretty typical green board, but we have access to negate, so we might as well play that. Rabid Bite is fun because it's good with Briarbridge Patrol. If she does damage to a creature, you investigate. So we can kill a guy and investigate if we play this. And I don't want to play in the main deck, but I think it's good in the board against decks that, you know, play smaller creatures that we can just blow away and get our clue. So I don't really have much to say about the board other than, you know, these are the cards you play in a green sideboard. Here are your power rankings for the deck. A final score of 59, not bad for about $35-40. And if you wanted to add the lands, it would be like $50-60, something like that. And it would go up in consistency, maybe, you know, but I'm not too sure that it would go up that much in consistency, like a 9.5, but not quite a 10. The deck is fairly consistent because it has so many ways of drawing cards, tutoring up cards, you know. So the deck is pretty consistent, and it only really plays the one color and like one card in the main deck from a different color. So really, you know, we got a lot that we're trying to do in this deck. There's a lot of synergy going on. There's a lot of big creatures and a lot of smaller creatures that help us get there. Either through blocking or, you know, just mostly through blocking or drawing cards through clues and stuff. So we've got a lot of stuff that we are doing in this deck, and if we can all pull it together, you know, then we can actually get a really good performance. But we've got to get there, and against very aggressive decks, that can be a problem. But here are some upgrades so you can make the deck even better. Now, a lot of decks are playing multiple colors here. And obviously we're playing technically 2 colors, but a lot of decks are going the full Monty and playing Teamer is, like I've already mentioned, an important one because that opens up access to Dragon Lord Atarka. If you can play it for essentially free after tutoring it up, that seems awesome. So if you've got the budget to play Dragon Lord Atarka in the deck, you could probably do that. As far as big creatures, there's also Ulamog and Worldbreaker. They both work amazingly well in the deck. Anytime that you're playing a creature that costs more than it would normally cost to sacrifice 3 clues, that's a good deal. So, you know, both these guys are amazing and just the biggest creatures in the format. So other than that, there's really not much. Probably Sylvan Advocate, since we're going to get pretty late into the game. Advocate can be really, really good, obviously. And then maybe Nissa Vastwood Seer for the exact same reason. That's all I got for now. I hope you enjoyed this deck. Put it together. It's a fun combo. And once you start chaining it together, you know, you get 3 clues a turn for a few turns. You start putting out Bellowers and getting more creatures out. If they kill your guys, you just go get Green Warden, get the guys back in your hand. Just keep going. You know, it's just, the deck is really good once it can establish the presence it needs to close the game out. So try it out. Let me know how you feel. I actually think this is a really, really fun deck and can probably do work at F&M. But what are we doing next time? I'm going to finally do Solar Flare. I'm ready to give it to you guys. Tony and I have put together our deck list and we've talked a little bit. Still got an email or 2 to send to one another, but that deck is coming very shortly and I'm super excited for it. I've also got another top 10 list coming up, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm excited and I want to build hype. So another top 10 list coming up, not going to have anything to do with what cards are good or bad even. You're not going to see it coming. So just subscribe if you want to see all that content, and then like the video if you enjoyed the video. That seems prudent. And I'll see you guys later. I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.